time for our second question. Again, we begin with Eileen Kiely. Do you think it's appropriate that lawmakers walk out of session if they're unhappy with a bill? Ms. Kiely, you get to answer first.
No. Oh, I'm sorry. I should probably be more specific. No, it's not appropriate. Often when I was negotiating, I had a losing hand. And I still stayed at the table and worked to find that common ground. You know, you don't get perfect. You get the best you can. And that's what we should be fighting for, is the best that we can for Central Oregon. If you leave the table, you lose your voice. We pay our legislators to stay there. And I'll tell you, when I was in the Navy, I took an oath to stay there every day and serve and fulfill my duty, whether I liked it or not. This is the job that we have a right to expect our elected officials to do, and it's the job that I will do in Salem.
Very good. You have plenty of time remaining.
I think I'm fine.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get over to Senator Kiely-Knopp. Same question. Do you think it's appropriate for lawmakers to walk out of session if they're unhappy with a bill? Senator?
Well, I think it should be a last resort. There were 3 walkouts. Some would refer to them as peaceful protests. And I participated in one of them. And the reason I did was because Democrats decided that they didn't want to listen to the thousands and tens of thousands of voices that are in Central and Eastern Oregon. They just decided that they wanted to do what they wanted to do on a cap and trade bill. And I said I would support a climate bill, but I wasn't going to support the most complicated and expensive bill that the legislature really has seen as it relates to this. And sometimes when you stall the process, which is part of the rules, Democrats have done it, Republicans have done it, you get an even greater voice. And part of the reason I engaged in the peaceful protest was because I wanted to make sure that the people I represent understood what was about to happen to them. So a bill was about to pass that raised gas taxes through regulation, at least 72 cents a gallon, would increase your home heating costs up to 50%, and would cost thousands of blue-collar manufacturing jobs, many of those union jobs. I didn't think that was right. I didn't think it was necessary, and we could have done better. The Democrats chose not to do that, so we wanted to make sure that we had a voice. By leaving, we were able to educate the public, our constituents, and the Democrats about what it meant to represent the constituents that we were there to make sure their voice was heard. And that's why I participated in our peaceful protest.
All right, thank you, sir. 30 seconds to you, Eileen Kiely.
If I gave up when people said they didn't want to listen to me, I never would have accomplished anything that I accomplished in my career. The majority has a responsibility under the rules to listen to the minority's voice. But it is still the minority's responsibility, or any legislator's responsibility, to win the majority, because that's democracy. In order to have your point of view carry, you have to work to win the vote.
All right, thank you. Tim Knopp, 30 more seconds on the point.
Well, I do think it's true that everybody's trying to win the majority, and we are a split state, but really narrowly so. And so it's important that we have good policy, not just good politics. And I've always stood for good policy and worked in a bipartisan way, and talked to many Democrats about this issue. But the reason that bill failed wasn't because of the lockout. It was because Democrats wouldn't vote for it because they knew it wasn't the right solution either.
All right, thank you, Senator. Now the real fun begins, because it's your opportunity to ask each other a question. And Eileen Kiely, you may ask Senator Knopp a question now. And Senator, you have 1 minute to respond.
Thank you. Senator, I speak to women on the phones. I've been doing a lot of talking with voters. And one of the biggest concerns I've heard, especially after the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, is the fear of losing the right to choose. My generation has always had it. We fear for our daughters and the women that we love. You have introduced many pieces of legislation to restrict a woman's right to choose. If you are confronted with a bill that would restrict a woman's right to choose in this coming legislature, would you vote yes or no? Because those are the choices we actually have when that bill comes forward. And I know that I will always vote to protect that woman's right to choose. How will you vote?
Well, I'm pro-life and believe that we need to defend the most vulnerable among us, and those are the people that have no voice. And Oregon is the only state in the country with 0 restrictions as it relates to abortion. And so, yes, I've been for parental notification, and yes, I've been for more clinic safety, and yes, I've opposed partial birth abortion, and yes, I oppose abortion through all 9 months of pregnancy. And really, this district, the majority of this district, wants to restrict abortion after the first trimester, with exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. And I would support that. And I think it's important that we...
All right, thank you, sir.
All right.
That's time. Eileen Kiely, you have 30 seconds now in which to add to or respond to what the senator just said there.
Thank you. This right has been important to women being able to lead the lives that they were meant to live, and I will always stand up for it. And so will the people of Central Oregon. We know this from the vote on Measure 106. In this district, voters defeated that measure almost 2-1. Central Oregonians are for a woman's right to self-determination, and I will always defend their right to choose.
All right. Mr. Knopp, you have 30 seconds now on that.
Yeah, I think there are people who want to scare women and believe that somehow things are going to change in reality, regardless of what happens with the court. I don't believe that that's the case. And I've served in the legislature for 14 years, and literally there's been, I think, 2, maybe 3 votes on the issue. And so I don't believe that, really in the premise that there's danger for people at this time.
All right. Thank you very much. That's candidate question number 1. Ready for candidate question number 2. And Senator Knopp, now it's your turn. You get to ask Ms. Kiely a question. Ms. Kiely, again, 1 minute to respond.
Thank you.
Eileen, there are people who believe that legislators should be paid more. If you were elected, would you commit to not voting for pay raises for legislators?
Oh, for me, I can commit that right now. Oregon has a citizen legislature. And for me, I actually would prefer to have the setup that we have right now and the pay that we have right now. I think part of the concern that we have, though, is does our legislature really represent people, the people of Oregon? You know, I'm retired. I have means. I can run for the legislature. Are we adequately representing people with young families, people who actually need to make a living at their job, that can't do the kind of interruptions that you and I can do? So I would be willing to look at it, but only if we're looking overall. It would require constitutional change. But for me, I like it just fine.
Senator Knopp, 30 seconds to respond to that.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe that it's important that as a legislator, if you take the job, that you are also signing up for whatever pay is offered. And I've opposed all the pay raises that have come before the legislature. I think it's important that the legislature doesn't increase its own pay, that it is only increased by a vote of the people.
Eileen Kiely, you have 30 seconds to respond to that.
Yeah. I think the only other issues that I really want to focus on, we need a representation. We need younger people. We need people of color. We need people from various communities. I think that, part of that issue is campaign finance reform. And part of that issue is figuring out how we can make it affordable for people that are not, Tim and I. We need to have more people. The diversity of our state is our strength. And I don't think we represent it quite in the legislature yet.
All right, thank you, Eileen.